You mentioned the word dispensational, and I want to start there. What is dispensational eschatology? Is this something that the church has known about for thousands of years, or is this rather new?
Well, the dispensational system that we're familiar with that is outlined in the Scofield Reference Bible, which I believe Scofield published his Bible, I don't know if it was 1907 or 1909, where he divided up biblical history in various dispensations. And God worked with Adam and Eve this way, and then God worked with Abraham this way, and then God worked with Moses this way, and then God worked in this particular period of time, and then the New Testament era, God worked in a different way. But the most significant aspect of the dispensational system is that there is this distinction being made between Israel and the church, and that God had a particular prophetic program for Israel, and then when Israel rejected Jesus as the Messiah, the prophetic clock stopped. And then after the prophetic clock stopped, we are now living in what is a parenthesis. We are living in something that was supposedly never prophesied under the Old Covenant, and the prophecy clock won't start back up again until the rapture of the church, where God then takes the church off the earth, and then there's a 7-year period which God deals with Israel again. And so the so-called church age is one of those dispensational breaks that Scofield and modern-day dispensationalists teach, and that God deals with Israel one way, God deals with his church a different way, and the church was something that, again, was not prophesied in the Old Testament. So that, in a nutshell, that's what we're really dealing with today.
Yeah, so it seems like the operative question would be, does God really have two distinct people? Should you make a distinction between Israel and the church, particularly when you look at Galatians chapter 3, where you find the text saying, in the words of St. Paul, that Abraham only had one seed. And then Paul goes to great pains to point out not seeds plural, but seeds singular. And then the double entendre comes at the end of Galatians 3. If you are in Jesus Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and an heir according to the promise. So the notion that God has two distinct people with two distinct plans necessitating two distinct phases of the second coming seems to be completely extra-biblical or unbiblical.
Yeah, it's obvious if you read the Old Testament. In fact, if you read Luke's gospel, there was always the redemptive program that the Gentiles would be part of God's redemptive work. And that during the time of Jesus, it was to the Jew first. Jesus comes, he establishes his messianic mission to the Jew first. And then we see, though, Luke talks about how this was going to be a light to the Gentiles. And so if you look at the book of Acts, and this is why you cannot make this distinction between Israel and the church, and we really need to define what the Bible means by church, the Greek word ekklesia. When you read the book of Acts, you see that message goes to the Jews. There were Jews living in Jerusalem from every nation under heaven. Acts chapter 2, verse 5. The first ecclesia, the first church that's mentioned is in Acts chapter 5, and it's made up exclusively of Jews. The theological battle that was taking place through the book of Acts was, were there two peoples of God? Could the Gentiles be one redemptive way that God deals with people, and is Israel the other way? And absolutely not. The Gentiles were brought into an already existing Jewish ecclesia based upon to the Jew first, and then to the Greek, or then to the Gentiles, and then to the nations. So there aren't two peoples of God. Paul makes the same kind of argument in the book of Romans, Romans chapter 9. That is, it is not the children of the flesh who are children of God, but the children of the promise are regarded as descendants. So it is always the issue of the promise of God, the remnant. This idea of two peoples of God, two different redemptive programs is not found in Scripture.